see the screen?
Yes, we can.
So I gave you the introduction of distillation. It's done. Simple distillation and fractional distillation. Okay. Now we will see what is written in the book. Okay. Page 413. Please open the book. Okay. Today, inshallah, we'll finish distillation, and after distillation, there is chromatography. Okay. So first, let's see in distillation. Okay. So simple distillation, first it's written about simple distillation, then about fractional distillation. This the paragraph after keywords. This paragraph is fractional distillation. From here, the fractional distillation is starting. Okay, explanation of fractional distillation. So the first paragraph, see here in simple distillation, it's written about salt water. Okay, and they have told you everything that what happens in simple distillation and how we can get pure water from this salty water. Okay, so in this distillation flask, in the round bottom flask, we will take salty water. Okay, the solution, because last time we discussed that in distillation we have solutions. Okay, in simple distillation we have solid liquid solution, and in fractional distillation we have liquid solution. Okay, but in both cases we have solutions. So we will take a solution, solid liquid solution, salt water solution in this distillation flask. We will heat it, okay, and the temperature will start to rise. Okay, so from for 25 degrees Celsius, temperature will keep on increasing, and when the temperature reaches at 100, then water will boil. It will start to boil. Okay, but solid will not boil because it's a solid, it's a salt. Okay, salt is solid at room temperature. So first the solid will melt into liquid and then it will boil. Okay, so the boiling point of solid substances is much higher as compared to water. Okay, so first the boiling point of water will reach. Are you getting it? For every solid substance, because water is liquid at room temperature. Okay, so easily it can be boiled, boiling point can be reached easily. But the thing which is solid at room temperature, it's very hard to boil it. Okay, like you can see these tables, chairs, they are solid at room temperature. So when we increase the temperature, first they will melt and then they will boil. So their temperatures will be in thousands. Okay, their boiling temperatures, very high temperatures needed to boil them. Okay, so when 100 reaches, the water will evaporate. Okay, water will start to evaporate, and as it is closed from the top, the water vapors are forced to enter the condenser. Okay, vapors will enter the condenser, pure water vapors. Okay, and inside the condenser, these vapors are turned into droplets. Okay, or liquids, and after condensation, they will be collected in this receiving flask. Okay, in the receiving flask. And did I tell you about distillate in the last lecture?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the pure liquid which we get in the end is known as distillate. Okay, so in distillation, the liquid which we get in the end, pure liquid, is known as distillate, like filtrate. Similarly, in filtration, we get filtrate in the end, and in distillation we get distillate. And inside the condenser, I already told you that inside the condenser we need cold temperature, so the cold water will get inside. Okay, it will provide the that cold environment to the vapor so that they turn into droplets. Okay, and then itself they become warm. Okay, the cold water will enter, it will give their coolness to vapors, and itself they will become warm. The water will become warm. Okay, and the water will go out from the other side. It will enter, the cold water will enter from one side, and the warm water will go out from the other side. Okay, cold water in, warm water out. And in the meantime, like when it enters, it moves into the spiral tube and it provides the cold environment to the vapors. So that's how we can separate the pure water from the salt, and we will be left with the salt in the flask. Okay, and then there are anti-bumping granules. Anti-bumping granules, they are like small beads. Have you seen marbles? Yeah. So these beads or anti-bumping granules, they are like small marbles, which we add in this distillation flask to avoid the formation of large bubbles in the liquid. Okay, because when the boiling point reaches, obviously the water starts to boil. Okay, it forms bubbles inside it and outside also. Inside the bubbles, first the small bubbles will form, they come at the top and they grow in size, they become large. Okay, and obviously when the bubbles become large, they pop also. Okay, so to avoid the splashing of bubbles and to avoid the loss of water, to avoid the formation of large bubbles, we use anti-bumping granules. Okay, and small amount of them, like just we will add few of them. So you can highlight it, and like this is really important, the purpose that why we use these anti-bumping granules. Okay, so these small questions are really important, like from of 1 mark they can come, that why we use, like why in simple distillation or why in distillation technique we use anti-bumping granules. So anti-bumping granules are often added to the liquid being distilled to prevent the formation of large bubbles in the liquid during boiling. Okay, so to prevent the formation of large bubbles and to avoid the splashing, the popping of the large bubbles, the loss of water. Okay, so we use these granules for that. Okay, and the definition is here. The anti-bumping granules definition: small granules that help reduce the size of bubbles formed when the liquid boils, used for safety to stop the water, to stop the flask shaking. Okay, it shakes also sometimes because of the boiling, heavy boiling. So to avoid it, they use these granules. Okay, and then there is distillate. And the second paragraph, it's also important because here it is written the use of distillation. The use of simple distillation. Okay, let's read. Seawater is a solution of various salts in water. Okay, seawater, is it salty or not?
Very
It
salty.
is
Yeah, seawater is salty. Okay, so it means that seawater is a salt water. Okay, and we have to remove the salt to make it useful for us, to make it easy for drinking, good for drinking. Okay, so we will do this simple distillation technique on a large scale to remove the salt from water, from the seawater. Seawater is a solution of various salts in water, and figure shows how pure water can be obtained by simple distillation. Simple distillation can be used to obtain drinking water from salt water on a large scale. Okay, so simple distill, through this technique we can remove the dissolved salts from water, and we can obtain pure water which is used for drinking. Okay, and this process is known as desalination. Okay, whenever a word D comes with anything like dehydration, what is meant by dehydration?
When you have like,
Good.
less water.
Less water, loss of
if you drink
water.
less water, you get dehydrated.
Yeah, when you get less water, when you drink less water, you get dehydrated. Okay, so it's the removal of water or the loss of water from body. Okay, so whenever word D comes with any process, it means the loss or removal of something. Okay, loss or removal. Okay, and salination, saline water. Have you heard about saline water? Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
that's salty water.
Yeah, so saline water is salt water. Okay, so we will do desalination. Desalination is removal of salt from water. Okay, now then these are keywords. Okay, definitions. Okay, then let's come to fractional distillation. Fractional distillation, separating the liquids from a mixture of two or more miscible liquids, is again based on the fact that the liquids will have different boiling points. However, the boiling points are closer together than the solid liquid solution, and fractional distillation must be used. Okay, now in fractional distillation, different liquids are separated out on the basis of their boiling points. On the basis of their boiling points, because all the liquids, we know that the different liquids and different substances, they have different temperatures at which they boil. Okay, so when one temperature is reached, one liquid will boil. Okay, then the temperature rises again, and then when the second boiling point is reached, the second substance will boil, then the third, then the fourth. Okay, so in this way we can separate the liquid solution. Okay, so if we have a solution of lots of liquids like alcohol, acid, water, base, lots of things are dissolved in each other. Okay, lots of liquid solution, so we can separate them on the basis of their different temperatures of boiling. Okay, boiling points. But here it is also written, this point is also really important, that the boiling points are closer together than for a solid liquid solution. In liquid, okay, when we have liquid, the boiling points are much closer together. Okay, closer together. Like if, for example, we are increasing the temperature and one liquid boils at 70, it will boil. The other liquid boiling point is 75. Okay, other liquid is 80. So their liquid boiling point is, like, it can happen that the liquids have boiling points very near to each other, very close to each other. So we have to be extra careful in this case. Okay, but in case for solid liquid in simple distillation, it's not the case, because the boiling points are really far from each other. Okay, like I told you that the solid, first it will melt and then it will boil, so its boiling point is much higher as compared to liquid. Okay, so in solid liquid the boiling points are very far. Okay, they are not much closer to each other, but in liquid we have to be very careful because the boiling points might be close. Okay. Yeah, in fractional distillation, the most volatile liquid in the mixture distills first and the least volatile distills the last. Okay, the one which has low boiling point, it will evaporate first. It will be separated out first. Now on next page, this is the diagram.
Volatile means thick.
Sorry?
What does volatile mean? Thick?
Volatile means the substance which easy to evaporate, which is easy. Okay, easy to evaporate. Clear? Okay. So this is the apparatus or the setup for fractional distillation. Okay. There is only one thing added in fractional distillation, which is fractionating column. Okay, I'll tell you about this after the explanation, that why this fractionating column or why these glass beads are used. Okay, first let's do the example which is written here. For example, ethanol boils at 78, whereas water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, when the mixture of the two is heated, ethanol and water vapors enter the fractionating column. Glass beads in the column provide a large surface area for condensation. Okay, the purpose of the glass beads. First, I'll tell you about this example. 78, we have a solution here in distillation flask. 25 is the room temperature. We started heating it. Okay, we want to separate ethanol and water from each other. We want to separate both liquids. Okay, we want to collect them in their purest form. So what we will do, we'll heat it. The solution will start, like the temperature will start to increase. When the temperature reaches at 78 degrees Celsius, we will start seeing the vapors going up. Okay, the bubbles will start to form. So it means that one of the liquid from this solution is evaporating. Okay, it starts to evaporate. And while it is evaporating, the temperature remains constant. This we know from heating and cooling curves. Okay, when we were doing heating and cooling curves, I told you that the temperature increases, okay, of the liquid, temperature increases, and when it is boiling, then the temperature remains constant. Into gas, then again it starts to increase. Do you remember? Okay, so when something is boiling, then the temperature remains same. Okay, like we will obtain a straight line. So similarly, 78 is the temperature will stop even if we are heating it. Even if you are heating it, the temperature will stop at 78 until whole ethanol evaporates. Okay, so ethanol will evaporate. It will go into the condenser. Inside the condenser, ethanol vapors will turn into liquid ethanol, and it will be collected in the receiving flask. Okay, so we will get pure ethanol at 78 degrees Celsius. Okay, so now how do we know that we have collected all the ethanol and no ethanol is left? When the temperature again starts to rise. Okay, so when the temperature again starts to increase, it means that all the ethanol which is present in the solution has been evaporated. Okay, now no more ethanol is left. That is why temperature again increases. So we can replace this flask with a new one. New empty flask, we replaced it. So we got the pure ethanol. Okay, now we have replaced the flask for the collection of water. Okay, now the temperature again increases and it becomes still, it becomes constant at 100 degrees Celsius. Then the water will evaporate, it will go into the condenser, turn into liquid, and in another flask we can get pure water. Okay, so in this water from its solution. Okay, did you get it till here? That how they are separated according to their boiling points one by one? Okay, and now these glass beads, there is a fractionating and this is okay, in a fractionating column we use glass beads. Now what these glass beads do, when the temperature increases, sometimes it happens that when the solution starts to boil or when the bubbles form and when the bubbles pop, the water vapors also, not water vapors, the water droplets, they also go into the fractionating column. Okay, because obviously when the bubbles pop and the solution is boiling, okay, ethanol evaporates, but the water also, sometimes water in the form of liquid, it will go up into the fractionating column. Okay, so these glass beads, they stop the going of water liquid, okay, liquid water into the condenser. So they stop the passage of water, liquid water, and send them back. Okay, these glass beads, they send them back, means they stop the passage or they stop the way of liquid water. They will not allow any liquid substance to move up. Okay, they only allow the vapors to go up. So this is the purpose of these glass beads. See the glass beads. Let me highlight it. These glass beads, yeah. Glass beads in the column provide a large surface area for condensation. Okay, firstly, it provides a large surface area because if there is a large surface area, then the reaction will be fast. Okay, the process will be fast. Evaporation and condensation takes place at times as the vapor rises. Where is this written? Somewhere it was written. I read it. Yeah, water condenses in the column and flows back. Yeah, and flows back into the flask. Okay, so the water condenses, the water goes up. Okay, and because of these glass beads, it goes back into the flask. Okay, so these glass beads actually send the water down, send the water back, because this is the temperature of ethanol right now. So ethanol is evaporating, but water is not. So some droplets of water will also go up, but they send them back. Okay, so this is the purpose of these glass beads. Glass beads, we are using these glass beads in fractionating column. The temperature, because the temperature of the column is below its boiling point. Okay, below its boiling point means 78. Right now the temperature is 78, below the boiling point of water. It's 78, so it's the time for ethanol evaporation. So ethanol is evaporating, but water will be sent back by these beads. Okay, the temperature on the thermometer. Yes, do you have any question?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
How does the glass beads provide a large surface area?
They increase because they are big in size, no? They are big in size. So like there is a, when the water goes up, then water, it actually spreads into the area. into the whole beads. On the surface of the beads, its water spreads. So the water surface area actually increases. Okay, when they are together, when they are in the droplets form, okay, they are together. So there is less surface area available. But when they spread on the glass bead, then the surface area increases. Okay, surface area is the area which is exposed for the reaction, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so when there are glass beads, then the area actually increases of the water vapors, because they spread onto the whole glass bead.
Okay.
Okay, so fractional distillation is a very important industrial process and is used in the separation of petroleum. Okay, which you did in grade 7, the crude oil one. So for simple distillation, you know the use of simple distillation for desalination, okay, and fractional distillation is used for the separation of crude oil into different useful oils, okay, for to separate them into petrol, petroleum, gasoline, kerosene, and all that. Okay, so this is their use. Okay, fractional distillation and simple distillation done. Okay, now this box is also really important because this is the summarized view of all the techniques. Okay, it's a summary of all the techniques. That if you have solid-solid mixture, okay, solid-solid mixture, then the first thing which I told you about is you have to select a suitable solvent. Okay, like the example of salt plus sand. Okay, so if we have two solids and we want to separate them from the mixture, then we have to select a suitable solvent in which one of it is soluble and one of it is insoluble, so we can do filtration. Okay, so we selected water for it. So this for solid, we have to select a solvent. This is a technique. For insoluble solid in a liquid, we do filtration. For a soluble solid in a liquid, we do crystallization. Okay, so this table is important for like as a revision. Overview of separation techniques. Now the next is selecting the correct separation technique. So how to select a proper technique for it, that which thing we want to separate. So we have to see the table that which technique will be used. Okay, and there are questions in the past paper in which you have different substances that if you want to separate this from this, then which technique will be used. Okay, if you want to separate solid this from this liquid, then which technique will be used. So there are questions like this. Okay, and in the worksheet also, the worksheet of this chapter, inshallah next week I'll give you the worksheet of this chapter. So in that worksheet there are questions like that. Inshallah we will solve. Now testing purity. Yes. Yes, beta.
Can you check my copy work of the chapter one work I submitted on OneNote? Like, can you check by tonight?
By tonight, I'm not sure because I have to complete checking of grade 7 actually. Grade 7 has
Yeah,
test
okay.
tomorrow. So inshallah after
Like,
that, day after tomorrow, I'll start checking grade 8, okay?
okay, no problem.
Okay, so testing purity by melting point analysis. Okay, this topic is, see the topic name, testing purity by melting point analysis. So by using the technique of melting point or by using melting point, we can actually test whether the substance is pure or not. Okay, by using melting point. So if a substance is pure, its melting point will be sharp, exact melting point, sharp, precise melting point. Right? We studied it in first chapter also. When a substance is pure, its melting point will be exact one number. And if the substance is impure, then its melting point will not be sharp. Okay, it is not sharp. Okay, and its melting point will be in range. Okay, means we cannot tell that this is the melting point. It fluctuates. when a substance is melting, its temperature will fluctuate between 2 or 3 temperatures. Okay, then we can say that this substance is impure. And if a substance is pure, then if it will boil or melt at a fixed temperature. So again, the same definitions are written which we studied in chapter 1 also. The physical separation techniques we have looked at provide methods to produce pure substances from a mixture. Okay, a simple test for purity is to measure the melting point or boiling point and compare this to a standard reference value. Okay, so we have a standard sheet. Okay, we have a sheet of all the melting points and boiling points. Okay, of all the substances. So we can test from the separation techniques. We can get the purified substances. Okay, from the separation techniques we studied so far. So we can get the pure solid, or we can get the pure liquid in the end through crystallization or distillation. But to test whether that substance which we get is pure or not, we can perform this melting point analysis. Okay, to melt them if it is solid by melting some of the crystals. When we heat them, then if they melt at a sharp temperature, okay, then we will say that they are pure. Okay, and they match with the sheet match with the value also which is given on the sheet. Okay, in the sheet all the values will be given that for different salts. For NaCl, this is the temperature melting point. For sodium chloride, magnesium bromide, for all the salts, the melting points will be given. Melting points are given on the sheet. So we will test it and we will compare the melting point from that sheet. If it matches with the melting point of the sheet, then it means that it's a pure substance. Okay, otherwise no, because if the impurity is then but decreasing. Decreasing melting point will decrease. Good. Okay, melting point in the effect of impurity. Okay, in first chapter. Okay, prepare for the test. Okay, and effect of impurity is very important. The topic effect of impurity. The melting point will decrease when any impurity is present. Okay, so if we melt the solid crystals and its melting point is not according to the one which is given on the sheet, if it is melting below that temperature, it means that it is impure. Some kind of impurity. If after distillation we are getting a liquid in the end, for example, after distillation we are getting a pure liquid, but to check whether this liquid is pure or not, we will boil it. Okay, we will boil it, and whatever boiling point we get, we will check them from the sheet. We'll check it from the sheet. Okay, and if the boiling point matches with the boiling point on the sheet, then it means it's pure. And if the boiling point which we get is higher than the sheet one, then it means that it's impure, because the boiling point increases when the impurity is present. Okay, in the effect of impurity, if you don't remember, in the effect of impurity we said that if the melting point, okay, and boiling point will increase. Okay, we discussed it already in effect of impurity in chapter number 1. Okay, but see, I told you that those things will come again in the other chapters also. Okay, that if the impurity is present, melting point will decrease and boiling point will increase. Okay, so if these pure substances, they are melting and boiling at different temperatures, they are not according to the sheet which is given, so it means they are still impure. Okay, and if they are according to the sheet digits, sheet number, then they are pure. So we can check the purity of substances by this analysis. Okay, when a substance is impure, the melting point will change, whereas a pure substance melts at a defined specific temperature. A sample containing impurities, that is a mixture, will melt at a lower temperature because its melting point will decrease. Seawater is impure water and it freezes at a temperature well below 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, because melting point will decrease, the freezing point will also decrease. In addition, the impurity reduces the sharpness of the melting point, and impure substance melts over a range of temperatures, not at a particular temperature. Okay, this line is what I told you here. That an impure substance, it melts over a range of temperatures. Okay, so there is no precise temperature, no particular specific temperature for it.
So it can be either more or either less than the original. Okay.
But if we are seeing the melting one, so the melting point, first of all, melting point will decrease, okay, and decreased number it will also be not sharp. And if we are checking the boiling, then boiling point, first of all, it will increase as compared to the original one. Boiling point will increase, and even if it increases, it boils at a like range of temperatures, not exact temperature. Okay, so if it is impure water, it will boil at maybe between 101 to 103. Okay, so pure water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, but the impure one, okay, first its boiling point will increase, and secondly it will boil at a range, okay, between the range, not exactly. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, then on the next page there is a diagram of the apparatus which we use for melting point. Okay, the melting point apparatus. So this is a simple machine, okay, in which there is a thermometer. Okay, so inside the machine there is a small hole of a test tube. So in this test tube, okay, in this small test tube we will add the substance of which we want to check the impurity, and we will put this test tube inside the inside this device. Okay, so there is a portion, a small hole where we will put this device. Okay, you can see it here, the picture, figure 21.13. Okay, magnified view through the lens of a sample being analyzed. So the sample is placed inside, okay, and this thermometer, it goes inside the sample. Okay, and as we increase the temperature from the regulator, it starts to increase, and we can check you can check the temperature from the thermometer, if it's fluctuating, if it is giving the range, okay, or if it is if it is melting at a sharp temperature. So we can see from the lens also that whether it is melting or not. Okay, it's very interesting to see that when the first crystals start to melt, okay, that temperature we have to note down. So we can see it from the magnified lens also. Okay, it's like a microscope. There is a small eyepiece at the back. So from that eyepiece, we can actually see, from that lens, we can see that the magnified view in this test tube. Okay, the whole explanation is written, okay, and it's a small apparatus. Yeah, the small test tube I'm saying is actually the capillary tube. Okay, small capillary tube in which we put a small amount of a solid. Okay, capillary tube filled with a small amount of a solid and is placed in a heating block, okay, inside this machine. The melting is viewed through a magnifying lens. Alternatively, the sample in the capillary tube can be attached to the thermometer, and melting achieved using the water or oil bath. Okay, we can put it and then we will melt. The presence of impurities will also alter the temperature at which the substance boils. As with the melting points, pure substance have fixed, well-defined boiling points. Okay, water boils at 100. The presence of an impurity will lead to the boiling point being raised because a boiling point, we discussed that boiling point will increase, okay, when the impurity is present. So if it is impure, it will show, it will boil at much higher temperature as compared to the original one. Okay, so this topic is finished. Now from next class, inshallah, we'll start chromatography. Okay, page 417. And this is the last topic of this chapter. Okay. If you don't have any question, you can go because the time is finished.
Okay, Allah Hafiz.
Okay, Miss. Allah.
Allah Hafiz. Okay, girls, you can
Allah Hafiz, teacher.
also leave. Allah Hafiz.
Left is.
Yeah. Bye.